think it's important to know the vaccination status of my coworkers.
What's your policy on paying employees to attend protests?
How are your safe spaces?
What's your policy on microaggressions?
I already feel microaggressed.
I only work remotely. You're triggering me.
My pronouns are they, them, their.
V, viz, vir.
Z, them, zir.
I'm bored. Hold on, I got a text.
You don't run a daycare, you run a business. That's why you need redballoon.work.
I gotta get going.
Just one last test. Hey, y'all. Text.
Hey.
Welcome to Water Break. It's good to be with you. We're actually enjoying Water Break today with
It's wine break.
Saint Chateau Michel.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Boo-boo-boo. Shoo.
It's already funner.
It's already
We're
better.
already having a funner time.
It's been a sickly week. I'm starting to feel better, so we need a little wine to a little pick me up
Yeah.
for our health and fitness show.
Yes.
And if you are into health and fitness and you don't drink wine, there's something wrong with you, because you need the what do you need? What do you need?
What is it?
What do you need out of the wine? You need the oxidates,
Oh man.
the oxytrates.
Maybe the polyphenols and the resveratrol.
There you go.
That's what he meant. He was very close.
Yeah,
And you need it.
the oxys too. What's the oxy?
I don't know what you're
like grapes and berries and stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't think we should tell lies.
Oh, okay. That's actually, incidentally, that's the topic of our show.
Yeah.
That's the topic of our show. We can turn
Don't
it into
tell
that.
personal lies
That keep us stuck.
that we tell ourselves or other people, perhaps.
Part dose. If you go check out part 1, and then this is part dose.
Yeah, it was like 3 shows ago or
A
shows
couple
ago,
of the number of
something
shows
like
ago.
I can't remember.
Next week, we'll be recording a show, but then after that, we'll be at our Fight Laugh Feast conference
Yeah, we'll be in Fort Worth.
Fort Worth. Maybe we get a little stage time and just me and you do a little show by ourselves in between break or something for
Oh,
everybody.
man.
You know,
I mean,
live health show.
we
Might
can
do
talk
that. I
about it.
might see what.
We
Yeah,
can
we
talk about
see
it.
what that might look like.
Yeah,
Do a live water break
it's a
for
packed schedule.
20 minutes or something between a break or something.
A wine break.
On stage. So if you guys want to attend, there's still room. Go to prodigalamerica.com. Prodigalamerica.com. Sign up. At this point, we're actually sending off our list to get the badges all printed up. So at this point, you might get a badge. You can just write your name on it
Yeah,
and not get your name actually printed on a badge. So
yeah. So
you should have signed up already. But it's a lot of fun. We got something like 60, 70 booths. We got Media Row with about 10 booths for Media Row. We have Beer and Psalms is on Thursday night, and that's just open to the public. Every event center is a little different. So this event center, we can actually open up to the public. So it's free. Food and drinks still will cost. And you can just, buy what you need for you and your kids kind of thing. But it starts at 5:30. It's going to go probably 5:30 to about 8:30. So longer fellowship time of kicking off, and excited to, every year we kind of have to structure the conference differently based on the kind of event center we have. So this time Beer and Psalms is free. So like anybody local can come Thursday night. It's Reformation Day. So all the booths will have candy and everything, and wear your cowboy hat and cowboy boots. Cause it's Reformation Day, it's like bring it in like a cowboy.
It's not.
That's not it.
You think it's like a cowboy thing to be reformed?
In Texas.
Reformation Day.
Yeah, Texas.
Every day is Cowboy Day in Texas.
Promised land.
You can wear.
Texas.
I mean,
Texas promised land. Idaho's like the redheaded stepchild of Texas.
oh my gosh! Everyone listening has heard that like 10 times.
Yeah, no, more than that. They hear probably 2 or 3 times a year. Mom's
Oh my
calling.
gosh, I know she is. I got to text her because she has cash. So
Oh,
it's
go ahead.
cash as in our
Go ahead and
son,
take care of
not like money.
The other thing is some of you guys who are on our email list, you can go to crosspolitic.com and fightlaughfeast.com to join our broader network email list. Because if you're part of the broader network email list, you can also go to GabeWrench.com to join my email list. I got my own email list, and then slowly we'll eventually kind of put together an Annie email list specifically on health and fitness. But the best way to kind of connect with Annie is through Instagram, or you can be in a conversation with us. You can email us at RenchMedia@gmail.com. So those are the best places to kind of connect with us right now. But if you're actually part of our broader network email list, we send out a digital copy of our magazine. Do I have it? Our latest magazine's over there. You can't even see it with this camera's angle. But we send out a digital copy. We've never done that. Send out a digital copy just to kind of whet your palate on what we're doing with our magazine and everything. So you can check that out. All that will be at the conference too. We'll have magazines at our conference, stuff like that. So There you go. So our topic today, personal lies that keep us stuck. And Annie, true to form, she's really good at this. She changed all the notes in the last minute. I had back-to-back conference calls before the show. So I just said, well, great. Well, I'll go with it. I'll do it.
I know, so I had to print them because I don't like putting. I just don't like.
You need
notes.
to be inspired. You need to be inspired.
I'm not inspired in notes. It's like tiny paper for tiny notes on a tiny phone, and I don't like it. I don't like how it feels. I don't feel inspired, and so I put it here. But at least I printed you one.
All right. So this is part 2, but we started over at number 1. We didn't build off of.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I think we did like
10 or 11.
No, I mean we got through maybe like 6 or 7 last time. And it's funny. And then like as soon as we were finished with that show, I like started writing more down, and I was like, wow, there's so many.
There's so many lies. Yeah, there's a lot of modern lies when it comes to our health and fitness.
Untruths that you can tell yourself or that people tell themselves that just are not helpful. You know. So here we are.
So here's number 1 of part 2.
Yeah.
This isn't really in a particular order, really. It's just
really.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. The number on the scale is more important than being strong and healthy.
Yeah, talking to you ladies, dudes don't tend to care. What are you? Well, okay. First, I should qualify.
Yeah.
If you are 5'3" and like 300 pounds, then the number on the scale
you need to think about it.
Does matter. Okay, like that is the kind of situation where if you walk around and you're like, I'm just big boned, that's probably not true.
I'm just big boned.
I'm going to say some mean things today.
Yeah.
It could be the wine, the tiredness combined with wine at 2 p.m.
It'll set you up real well.
Yeah. So like there is such thing as just being morbidly obese. Like, you know what I mean? Like what your weight is made of and, you know, how tall you are and how big of a frame you naturally have. Like that all matters. So I'm not saying that like the number on the scale doesn't matter at all. And hopefully you guys can understand that. But this is more talking specifically to women. Women tend to have a huge problem with this. I'm talking about like a girl who, you know, could fast a ton and not strength train and undereat chronically and obsess and be 135 pounds.
Right.
Because she's obsessed with that number because, you know, that's what she was in high school, or that's what she was when she got married, or that's what she was when she took that one selfie. It's actually funny how there's probably like 5 little stories like that, or 5 little tropes that almost every single girl who falls into this, they're all the same. It's like, well, it's just, I just want to fit those one pair of pants that I wore when I was 21, or I just want to look like or feel like I did, or weigh what I did, you know, back that when I got married or when I was in high school. I hear it all the time, and it's always the same story. I'm talking about like if you're that way at 135 versus putting some muscle on, having a healthy appetite, getting in the gym, not being obsessed, and being 145. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, right.
And what I'm trying to tell you guys is that it is such a horrible, miserable lie a lot of the time to be more obsessed with that 135, and I'm just using it as an example, on the scale, as opposed to being more concerned with just being strong and healthy, whatever weight that might look like for you. That might be 5 pounds more. That might be 10 pounds more, depending how underweight you were to begin with, right? Good. But just, it is such a miserable place to be when all you care about is a number on the scale.
Yeah.
And again, this can be true for dudes too. It just doesn't tend to be the case as much, you know? And it's funny, like a lot of guys get excited. Well, if they're working out, they get really excited when the number goes up because that means they're building muscle, you know? That's like a harder sell for girls. But it's just, I can't believe how miserable women can be, and obsessed and sad and literally just miss out on their own life. When they're so obsessed with this, you know, number one, and we talked about this before, the fitter you are, so the more exercise centric your life is, the more, you know, strength training you do, which of course is something that we think all of you should be doing in some capacity, women not excluded. The less the scale is going to be a good indicator of your health and even how you look.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's really funny. I mean, you can like, I think we can get so mental that no matter how we look, no matter what other people think of how we look on a journey of fitness, if we get to a certain number, it's like, oh, I'm uncomfortable.
Right.
Oh, I'm fat. Or, oh, I don't like this. Or when the truth is, a lot of girls who weigh a little more look better than a lot of girls that weigh less or that are scrawny or skinny fat. And again, everybody, I want to be clear. I'm not like, there's a lot of different types of bodies out there, and there's really lean people naturally, men and women. There's more curvaceous people. There's naturally more muscular people, and you know, and you got to take the body God gave you and just try to be the healthiest, you know, best looking version of that you can be. But all I'm saying is, like, some of these girls that I see obsessing over the scale, obsessing over just a number,
Yeah.
A lot of times they diet down to a place where it honestly doesn't even look good.
Right.
And
Yeah.
like even their own, friends or husband might even give them that same feedback. Like, hey, I actually liked you 10 pounds heavier. Like
Right.
you were happier, you
Right.
looked better. You had some shape, they're not hearing it, so
Right.
that's one lie that is very, very prevalent. A lot of women have fallen for this and they don't always talk about it. But I know a lot of people who are listening right now are hearing what I'm saying.
Right.
And I'm just here to tell you that it is so much better to weigh a little more if that's what it takes,
Right.
but have a high amount of lean muscle on your body. That is huge. So I'm not saying just gain fat, right? I'm
Right.
not just saying eat Doritos.
Maybe gaining a little muscle might be helpful.
Put some muscle on
yeah.
your body, which will cause you to weigh a little more. I
Right.
mean, that's kind of what it is. Eat, feel good, and be actually able to do things than it is to be 5 or 10 pounds less, but weak, low energy, crabby, skinny fat, and just food and scale obsessed. That's the main point there. And I just want to point out also that if you can shift your goals to more performance type goals rather than obsessing over the scale, I have found in my experience, and it's really interesting, that a lot of women, especially if they're going into that performance goal with some weight to lose, which a lot of people do, they actually end up losing that weight as sort of just a side bonus throughout that journey of that performance goal. And it's so much funner to be focused on something outward. Like, I want to be able to do this really intense hike with my kids, or I want to be able to run this half marathon, or I want my big lift numbers to come up this high in this much time. I see people's body composition change all the time, even when that's not even their main goal. And it's a way more enjoyable way to get there.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes your body is more willing to release body fat if you are in a better space in your head.
Yeah, and I
mentally not obsessed and unhappy and stressed out all the time.
I don't think God blesses bean counters.
Mm.
The only bean counter he blesses is those who takes care of our financial books, accountants.
It's okay for them.
But it's okay
To
for them.
count the
They
beans.
can count. They're required
It's their
to.
job.
But I don't think God wants us bean counting our life.
Oh, it's not very
it's
fun.
It's not a fun way to live.
Yeah,
Being a Scrooge is not fun.
I don't see a lot of people thriving who
I mean, how
are
much
obsessing over it.
how much
Yeah.
damage has the weight machine,
You mean like
done?
the scale?
The scale, has done
Man,
to our thinking
know.
process in regards health and fitness.
If only we could measure that. And it's funny because it won't lie to you. And in some contexts, it's very helpful because it's an objective measurement. And again, back to our initial example, if you're like 300 pounds and you're 5'2",
Yeah.
you probably do need a scale, and you need to reckon with that for a billion reasons. But
Yeah.
at the same time, there are so many women, thanks to a long-standing diet culture and so many things, who are just totally enslaved to their scale in such an unhealthy way. And I've said this on past shows that I have thrown away or told many clients to get rid of their scale. I mean, like, don't get on it. Like,
Just get rid of it.
Get rid of it.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Literally get rid of
Yeah.
it. It is not helping you.
Yeah.
It's not helping you. So, and I just want to say one more thing about
Okay.
this one. Long term, the women in particular who have, always their main goal in life has just been to fit into a certain tiny pair of pants or have the number on the scale never go up since high school or their 20s or whatever. And they somehow into their 40s, 50s, 60s manage to achieve that. They are always full of regret. Okay, you guys, skinny fat or like very low muscle tone or lean mass on a body does not age well by any sense of the word. It does not look good. Okay. For those of you who are just really concerned with how you look, it does not age well. Okay. Muscle ages so much better. And you end up in a place where you are frail, you are fragile. They usually have major bone density issues. It becomes, and when they come to me and they are full of regret and they're like, oh no, what do I do? I need to build muscle. You can, but it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder when you're 65 or 70 to start. And I'm not saying you can't, you can,
right.
And you should start wherever you're at, just do it. But if you could have had a different mindset when you were younger and just had been building and creating a reservoir of lean mass to dip into when you were older, allowing that scale to go up 5 pounds because mass weighs something, you would have been in a totally different position, So like thinking long-term, if nothing else, just remember that all you've got in front of you is years of frailty, weak bones, injury, not being able to pick up your grandkids, possibly not even being able to live alone. Like, the trajectory is bad.
Yeah.
So again, really do, if you're one of those people that are just constantly telling yourself that the most important thing to you is simply a number on the scale, consider letting that go and create goals or motivations for yourself that are more healthy and are going to allow you to live better and be more of a blessing to other people, honestly, because those women are miserable people.
And, from a man's perspective, I like my wife looking healthy.
I think most men do.
If you look gaunt and, again, there's a difference between kind of like a skinny body and a body like yours.
Totally. Like a naturally lean woman.
Lean, right?
Yeah, totally.
And even a naturally lean woman should, she can work with food and fitness in a way where she looks gaunt.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But like,
totally.
I like the fact that you look healthy, Yeah,
I think most men do. And I actually think that this funny.
I agree with you. Where women create their own standards where they think, this weight or this skinniness is what looks good. And I don't like that at all.
And I think a lot of the industry of like fashion, etc., has been run by women and gay men probably.
Yeah, 100%.
For a long time. And so it's like, that's who's informing, the really gaunt supermodel look, although that's actually going away a little bit, but that was huge back in the 90s. And that's where a lot of this comes from.
I heard a comedian, I forget his name. He was talking about how Trump, like Beyonce, has impacted culture like nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and one of the guys that heard him made that comment, he's like, Beyonce, what? He's like, oh yeah, she has impacted women's body deposition. Women, the way they want their body to be shaped.
Big time. Yes.
That's right.
And I'm not a huge fan of her, but I am thankful that culturally,
not a healthy spiritual woman.
No, she has some problems, but you look at women like Beyonce and J-Lo and and the Kardashians, and I mean, they're all none of these are great people, but I mean, like they brought being curvaceous back,
right?
But again,
it's just an interesting comment. This
it is interesting because before that, it was the like just be the skinny
the pencil chick,
BK Moss, right, and that again, that's where that '90s diet culture I think was born out of. So, anyways, it's interesting stuff to talk about. Okay, you want to talk about the next?
Okay, one? number 2. I do, again, these are lies that keep us stuck.
No,
I do strength train because I do hit 3 times a week. And talking about getting stuck in a groove.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So,
I stretch 3 times a week.
Good job. Yeah. Do you want to just start listing off things we do 3 times a week?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's part of the point.
Really good job.
I think that's part of the point here.
It's not really. I mean, it was just it was arbitrary. Good job though, stretching 3 times a week. So this happens a lot. So there's the whole group of people, men and women are even worse, who don't strength train at all. And lie number 1, we were kind of speaking to that. Like, please start doing that. And don't be bothered if the scale goes up a little bit. Maybe it needs to. And then there's the other people who are like, oh, strength training. Yeah, it is good. Yeah, I do it. I'm doing it. I go to HIIT class or CrossFit or anything, Orange Theory, anything that falls under high intensity, which is a lot of your group fitness options, honestly. And I will do push-ups in there sometimes, or we'll do pull-ups in there sometimes, or we'll do some presses or whatever, and we've talked about this before too, but it's just such a prevalent problem, you guys. I just want to be clear that I don't have an issue with HIIT at all or CrossFit. I think it's really fun. You guys have heard me say that before. I even do some of it. I don't do a lot, but I do some of it. But the thing is, you just have to have your categories straight. And this is so important. This is so important in all of life. If everybody would just get their categories straight and just be honest about naming what everything is, what it is you're feeling, what it is you just said, what it is you're doing, what it is you want, just be honest
with yourself. Yeah.
That would just clear up so many problems,
It's amazing how there's a spiritual connection to all this.
Yeah, no, it's like, I think health and fitness is just a tiny microcosm, and everything about it, all the truths about it or the problems about it kind of extrapolate out to being true pretty much everywhere. Like it really is true. But anyways, you need to get your categories straight. Okay. So for me, in my life, in my gym schedule, I'm trying to think, I want to make sure I'm accurate about this. I basically do one true high intensity workout a week. I did that on Tuesday. I do it just on Tuesday. And I do some runs. Okay. But other than that, I just do one. And the reason I only do one is because I also run and you have your buckets and you can't have too much in any one bucket. But when I'm thinking about my week and I'm thinking about my categories of the kinds of exercise that I could be doing, that high intensity workout is just cardio. That's what it is. Okay. It's not wrong. It's not right. It's just cardio. Okay. There could be 100 fast kipping pull-ups in there. There could be some air squats, there could be things that could in another context and, in a different situation be utilized as strength training. But in that context, when your heart rate is up and you're also running and you're also rowing and you're doing burpees in between or whatever it is that you're doing, that's cardio. Okay.
Right.
The main goal of it is for your heart rate to go really high, either in like an intermittent hit type way or in a just kind of really high for the whole time where you just grind out 30 minutes.
Right.
There, again, nothing wrong with it, but that is not strength training. Okay. And I can't tell you how many women only do strength training type classes. They categorize it in their head as strength training. And then they come and find me and you're like year 5. And they're like, well, I still can't do a strict push-up. I still can't do a pull-up, even though they show up in class all the time. And I'm like, okay, well, when do you work on them in an actual strength setting?
Right.
Where there is no running, there is no burpees. Your heart rate is not 175.
Right.
You are actually strength training with the main goal to be, I want to get stronger. Right. And as we've talked about, in order to optimize the ability to build strength with really any movement, you need anywhere from 2 to 4 minute rest in between sets. Right. And it kind of depends on how much time you have and if you're caring more about strength or you're caring a little bit more about building muscle, whatever. But either way, you need rest periods, not burpees, in between whatever it is that you're doing. And this is why so many women make very little strength, probably men too, very little strength gains when all they do is high intensity. Now their heart and their lungs condition, and then that's great, right? Because why? Because it's cardio. Okay. So again, I'm not saying it's wrong or it's right, but please don't tell yourself the lie that because you go to whatever popular high intensity class several times a week, that you are actually strength training. Another thing you need to keep in mind is that every time you go to one of those classes or do one of those really hard AMRAPs or hit workouts or whatever, that is very stressful to your body. There really is not a more, in my opinion, stressful signal that you can send to your body than like jacking your heart rate up as high as you can for an extended amount of time.
Right.
Because again, remember, your body doesn't know really why you're doing that or, what's the context of it. You can just be like, well, I'm fat and I'm trying to lose some pounds. That's a good thing. It's good for my health. And maybe it is, but your body doesn't know. It's like, why are you doing this to us so many times a week? So you need to remember you've got your buckets of different exercise categories. You also have buckets of things that are going to, well, you have a stress bucket. And you gotta be honest with your categories about what things in your life, whether you view them as good or bad, whether you personally enjoy them or not, what are going to pour into your stress bucket. And if you're going hard, every single high intensity workout does dump into that stress bucket. And that's another reason I find that women, their health does not improve when they're overdoing what they might call strength work, but really it's just a CrossFit WOD, because not only are they not making the strength gains or building the muscle and getting the physiological adaptation that they should be getting in order to get stronger, but they're also dumping, like overflowing that stress bucket every single week. And from a hormonal and a physiological standpoint, that's going to block weight loss and cause all kinds of health issues as well. So really,
this is like, basically
get your categories straight. Really. That's all it is,
I think part of this too is just like normal people should have normal workout lives. And you want to be, you want to have variety in that. But a big thing that's been missing from normal workout lives is strength training.
Yeah, like balance. You need to have balance.
If I'm going to play basketball for the NBA, I'm not a normal person.
Right.
My workout's going to be very different. The intensity is going to be very, very different. So normal people should think more normal instead of stop looking to all the marketing campaigns about the next latest and greatest hit class or the next latest and greatest oh my gosh, what's the big workout gym bro box thing? What do you call it?
CrossFit?
Yes, CrossFit.
What's it called?
My brain is still a little foggy, but like what we do instead of think about how we should be working out, we're kind of looking to the fads of how it should look. Yeah, and so that's adding stress and stuff like that versus like, just kind of think you're a normal person, have a normal workout life, maybe do strength training on Monday, running on Wednesday, and
what else can you do besides
what's your I got so much brain fog. I'm getting out of it.
Yoga,
Pilates. There we go. Pilates on Friday. It's like
that's really well balanced.
That's pretty balanced.
It's really well balanced. So you're saying you need balance. I agree with that.
Well, I'm just saying you're a normal person. Have a normal workout life. Stop judging and creating your workouts around all the hits and fads that are going out there, because
Yeah.
it's probably doing you more harm than good.
Well, I agree with
So-
that. A lot of people's workout routines are doing more harm than good, but also you're not going to have that balance or know how to be normal if you don't put things under the right category.
Yeah.
You know, so definitions, you guys,
Well, and that's why I'm saying you're a normal
Definitions are-
person. That's your
yeah.
category. That's who you are,
Yeah.
right?
be normal.
Okay.
Okay.
Number 3. I got so many funny stories
This is a
around
great
this.
one,
Yeah.
Gabe. Yes, but
I can contribute to this one.
absolutely.
Creatine is a gym bro thing.
Is it
Absolutely.
Gym bro thing?
It used to be.
Gabe's not going to agree with me.
It
on
used to be a gym bro thing.
this. It had until recently.
Yeah.
That's all most of the only guys who are using it.
So when I came into
athletes,
creatine,
athletes, and
Athletes,
gym bros. Yeah.
I was playing college basketball. I was in California, and I'd come home for the summer and train.
Yeah.
And this is back in 1998, 99, and 2000. And I remember, I knew I was behind. I knew my strength training was behind the rest of my team. And so I came home summer of 99, I believe. And so all I did was work and train. That was it. Work for money and train
And you were
for
like, I need to take this creatine.
Yeah. And so I was like, I got to figure out how to have as productive summer as possible. I was working at a job where I was probably walking about 12 miles a day. I added it up. About 12.
What were you doing?
We're just constantly walking.
Was it a factory job?
It was a shipping
Oh,
job
I
for True
remember
Value Hardware.
You telling me about that? So you were
And so we just
tired.
you just picked up boxes and you put them on this truck. You picked up
Yeah.
boxes and you're walking on this what we called the loop all day.
The loop.
The loop. And so we walked. I mean, that's all you're doing is walking and picking. And so I started getting on creatine. Well, creatine back then, they tell you to what they called loading.
Oh,
Do they still call
it's
loading
still
now?
a-
Still
Yeah,
call
yeah.
loading?
The loading phase. It's still a thing now,
Yeah.
although there's more info out about how you don't have to.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, you would do it.
So
like, what,
they
20,
said loading.
20 grams.
I forget the
Yeah.
scoops,
Yeah.
but like that loading was like 10 scoops or something, whatever it was. Lots of scoops. And you did this
Yeah.
you loaded for like a month.
Yeah, that's normal.
And then you kind of went into maintenance mode. So I loaded, it was in June. I loaded doing whatever, for a whole month. And I remember one night in June, I probably wasn't drinking enough water with everything that I had been going on too. I woke up with the most massive hamstring cramp I've ever had.
Yeah, I remember you
And
telling me
I
about
threw
this.
a pillow at my brother. I mean, it must have been like 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. I threw a pillow at my brother. I was like, dude, you got to wake up. You got to help me. This cramp is so bad, I can't get it out. And so my brother, like 2 in the morning, helped me stretch out my leg and all that stuff. And so, but we've learned a lot about creatine since then. But creatine for us was basically the goal was it increase your stamina to be able to work out harder and lift higher
Yeah.
weights. That's what it was.
No, that's
I don't know
right.
if it's still that now, but
Well, I mean, it's the same molecule as it's always been. And
sure. But I'm just saying the emphasis back then was this is
Right.
what you used it for.
Yeah, and you're
Yeah.
right about that. Yeah, from an exercise standpoint,
Yeah.
it's not anabolic like
Yeah.
a steroid, like where it will actually make you bigger. It just affects your energy systems basically, so that you're able to do more work and recover better. So
Yeah.
you can get more sets in, get a few more reps in, maybe a slightly higher weight, that kind of a thing. Yeah, well, it's funny. Creatine's honestly probably it's really just it's a chemical compound that occurs naturally in the body. And it's also found in just in terms of your diet, it's found in meat, very high in a lot of seafood and animal milk
Okay.
too. So high
Okay.
in animal products. So you just get another reason to eat those. But it's probably one of the best researched molecules out there. Like there's so much research on it, interestingly. So you can really we know a lot about it, and we've known about it for a long time. So it's
Right.
really and it's not that we haven't, some people haven't known about all of its other benefits.
Right.
It's just that now people are starting to talk about it, which I think is so interesting. But I think it made the list because when people, men and women, ask me, okay, if I was, what are the top 3 or even top 1, supplements that you would recommend everybody taking? Creatine's up there for me for just about everybody,
Yeah.
even if they're not active.
Yep.
Especially for women because of the effect it can have on our bone density, which is so
Right.
interesting. So, basically, creatine is a source of energy for muscles, especially the kind of energy you would need during something high intensity, like lifting heavy weight,
Right.
sprinting, jumping, that kind of thing. And creatine is in our body converted into creatine phosphate, and then it's stored in our muscles and effectively helps us produce ATP, which is the energy currency of our body. So
Yeah.
that's how it kind of makes sense that It's not so much an anabolic or anything. It's just facilitates
Energy.
more movement, right? The ability to work harder and rest, and recover faster and all those things. So,
but we don't do the loading thing anymore.
Well, you know what? People still do, but you don't have to. You don't have to. So basically, what the dose that I recommend for most women is like 5 grams a day. And for most, with like most little tubs of creatine you'd buy, that's like 1 scoop. You can of course check the back, but that almost always comes with barely any side effects whatsoever. Like no issues at all.
Okay.
Every once in a while someone will find that like, oh, I'm peeing more, or I feel a little like the scale bumped up, like because it hydrates your cells. So if you're really one of those obsessed people who weighs
it's going to maintain water
a little
more
bit more, but not in a bad way. It's just hydration, right? So you might see the scale bump a pound, maybe, but I mean, I didn't when I started taking it. But it's great for performance. It's great to help assist muscle build and maintaining lean mass. And obviously that's really important for men and for women, and for women in particular, because building muscle for a lot of women is a challenge. So creatine, super helpful, and like literally zero downside. I mean, it's just been, like I said, so studied. It is so safe. Now, the loading phase, it's just a way to basically reach what they call saturation faster. So if you don't do the loading phase, I didn't have any reason to. I just started with 5 grams, and they say it takes, if you're not loading and you're just taking a standard dose, it takes about a month-ish to reach saturation
and start feeling major benefit from it.
If you want to do a loading phase, it's like 20 grams for a while, which is a lot more, and then like 15, and then it kind of tapers down. That's when you can get some like muscle cramps, some GI distress, and that's what all the kids back then were doing.
Oh yeah,
it just
loading was a big thing.
Yeah, it just speeds up the benefits, but it's, again, you don't need to do that. Especially if you're more into it for just long-term health, so you don't have to do that. So that's good news. And this is the other thing. Okay. It's not just here to help us build muscle, help our performance, all that, even though that is very important, especially for women. But there are so many studies showing how it is so beneficial for brain health.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah. And protection.
Yeah.
Yes.
So creatine even helps some of the brain health, like the memory, or just protection?
Just brain health in general. I mean, like, so... And if you're trying to protect against like TBI, like our son, he's only 10, but
what's TBI?
Traumatic brain injury.
Okay, yeah, like concussion, something like that.
And they're even talking like protective against Alzheimer's down the road. Like there's just a lot of really interesting research out there, and it's still coming out. There's people are like, creatine is one of those things that people are like, every time, every year that goes by, we've discovered some other interesting, cool thing about it. So I'm going to have my kids on it for, increased performance, but also especially for Cash, because he plays football. He's going to be on it here soon, just regularly for brain benefits and, cognitive benefits. It's also huge in terms of benefiting bone health, which for women, especially as they move into perimenopause and menopause, huge deal. So there's a lot of reasons to take it. And there's also a lot of research showing that it's just generally anti-inflammatory.
Is it creating the research, or is it like objective?
No, there's tons of independent researchers that are not tied to creatine whatsoever. And again, there's so many, and it's been going on for so long. Like I'm pretty convinced by this. Like it's it's actually one of the ones that I recommend to almost everybody and that I personally take. So anyways, put that on there. Not just for the gym bros.
Get on that.
You probably should get on creatine. I mean, look at you. You need it.
I need brain help.
Yeah.
Especially this week. This week's been difficult. Brain difficulties this week. Before we get to the next one, Marius, I'm probably saying her name wrong, said he loves our show with us, me and you. He said, my wife and I love listening to it. I'm down 50 pounds and she's down 40 pounds.
Wow.
It's been a great journey to be back in shape.
Good job, you guys. Congrats. It's cool. And it sounds like they kind of did it together, which I think is really neat.
Yeah. We don't do this together because I'm not where you're at.
Well,
I'm doing this by myself.
It's okay.
It's okay.
We're not normal.
All right. No, we aren't. All right. Number 4. Eating mostly whole real food is what fringe health nuts do, and it's too extreme for normal people.
Yeah.
And again, this is like where definitions,
Big
like our we harp on this a lot, but it's so true. And it's something that really needs to be undone and revisited very frequently. And I'd like to revisit this in different ways and different angles on our show over time. But like the medical, industrial, and the big food complex that has basically created the health narrative over the last 50 years has been so bad for our thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of this goes into the theology of, I don't need it right now. You just put it down. Part of it goes into the theology of how we view things. It's mom and dad's job to figure out the health stuff. It's not the government's job, right? It's mom and dad's job to make their kids healthy, that kind of thing. But what we've done is we've abdicated to a scientific, medical, industrial complex, big food complex, where we've defaulted to them and said, okay, whatever you guys say, we'll do. That was
FDA,
the FDA,
government, really.
Yeah. And so that has shaped so much. The food pyramid has shaped so much of how we think about food in our culture. And so even when we talk about whole real food, well, like the industry's even affected that. The industry's even kind of affected that definition of what is whole real food. I really like, I bring this up frequently with you, but I really like the term, nutrient dense food. Because I think that kind of helps get at, like, you need to, try to get as many, fake flavors and fake things out of your food. Focus on foods that are, nutrient and dense, and that are kind of coming from the more natural way God created things. I don't have a problem with, as we might phrase it, with chemicals in our food. But I do have a problem with us not thinking through it and just believing and absorbing everything the big food says about it, and just taking it without doing our research and eating it and using it in our family diets without us really thinking through it. God made the earth in all its fullness, but we need to be wise on how we look at our food, and we've just been so just absorbing what big government tells us, and they aren't responsible for this. It's mom and dad that's responsible for this, and we've just been absorbing what they say. Now, I do think a lot of chemicals in our food, as I think we're learning, have not been good for us. And I do think that we've been very mindless about this whole process. But I also just don't want to guilt trip people when it comes to food. But I do want to help them think clearer and more biblically about our food. So that's the ditch I want to avoid on our side, where it's like you can start guilt tripping people about food. Yeah. But the ditch that we've run into so much has been the ditch that we just, whatever the government says, whatever the food pyramid says, whatever big food tells us, yeah, we'll eat it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess when I wrote this, eating mostly whole real food is what fringe health nuts do, and it's too extreme for normal people. Yeah. So that is the mindset of a lot of people. And I guess I'm not so much talking to people who are like really researching, and then when they come up with their research, they're like, well, it says I need to eat Special K every day, so I'm just going to do that. I mean, there are those people, and we have fallen for that marketing scheme. And obviously that's not a very nutritious or healthy way to live your life or to eat. I'm more just talking about the average American who, if they really assess the kind of food, or like you took a wife and she just really did an honest assessment of the kind of food that she is feeding, preparing, giving to herself and her family day in and day out, how much of it is highly processed, not nutritive food, like not highly nutritive food. It's the answer is a lot of it. And if you asked her honestly, do you think
Lindsay says Special K kind of scares her?
Special K is scary. Yeah. And if you with moms like that, and you ask them like, well, do you think that fish sticks are really, really healthy? She would probably say probably not. Yeah. But it's what we're all used to, and it's the standard. A lot of times it's what that mom also grew up with, because it's been kind of going on for a while. And I'm just saying that a lot of us, even that mom who might admit like, yeah, I understand that us eating McDonald's 3 nights a week because we're busy is probably not that healthy. Right. But it's out of reach. It's not normal. It's too extreme to even fathom actually, for the most part, eating real whole food.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't even have to be fancy. I just mean like hunks of meat and fruit and vegetables as your staple, eggs in the morning, that kind of a thing. Just that's what we mean. That's what we mean when we say real whole food. Yeah. And yes, it is more nutrient dense, and it doesn't have all the additives, but it takes a little more work. It takes a little more time. It takes shopping a little more frequently. It's actually not that hard once you get used to it. But if you're not used to it, it can sound really, really daunting. So, we've talked about the Overton window needing to move.
Yeah.
And the thing is that a lot of families with the kind of mom that I just described, a lot of those people are not very healthy.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm thriving. you know what I mean? And like people are like, well, you really should still eat more apple. I'm saying a lot of these people are overweight, unhealthy, insulin resistant, not feeling good, low energy, mood problems, like the list goes on. And as mom and dad age, it's just getting worse and worse. And then their doctor's like, well, it's just part of aging. And it's just sort of this vicious cycle of unhealth. But, and I think a lot of people would admit that, but they just are like, it's
You're
too
just
hard.
getting old. You need to get on a statin.
Yeah. And everybody is on a statin. I mean, people our age are on a statin.
Yeah.
Like it's like really common. Like everyone's on a statin. I was just talking to a client yesterday. We were talking about that because she said she's very healthy, an endurance cyclist, lean, in the gym all the time, eats very clean, very healthy person. But she probably due to genetics has higher cholesterol. And the doctor's already been like, well, we could give you a statin. And she was like, I don't know if I want to, which is the right answer. And he was like, come on, everyone's on a statin. That's what he said.
Wow.
And he's not wrong.
Oh, then I should do it.
I know, but he's not wrong. Everybody's on a statin. It was like unhealth, really poor quality food is just the norm. And so what I'm trying to say is it doesn't have to be that way. And I would argue that the Overton window of what normal real food is for America needs to shift. Even if it just shifted back to where it was when our my grandma was alive, it would we'd probably even then be in a better place. But if you shift even more, you know what I mean? Like it just needs to shift, but at least you can do that personally in your own mind and with your own family.
So Lindsay asked here, she says, are fish sticks, do they equal medium healthy? And then Corey follows up and he says,
I touched a nerve with the fish sticks.
Yeah, fish sticks. Corey follows up and he likes to make salmon with panko bread for fish sticks. That's his fish stick.
Oh, he makes his own. I mean, anytime I would not say fish sticks are medium healthy. Like I would say something like that's like battered. It has probably industrial oils in it, probably a bunch of other preservative added ingredients. And I'm not saying you guys, it's morally wrong to eat a fish stick. My childhood was riddled with fish sticks. We ate a lot of them. And do you know why? Because my parents didn't have a lot of money. My mom was exhausted and there were 7 of us and we liked them. So it wasn't a battle. Those are big 3 right there. I would say.
Yeah.
You know,
certainly
money. I'm tired, and the kids like it.
And also to your point there too, it's like, well, what's on the box versus making your own?
Yeah, that's a way better choice. I mean, there's some things you probably couldn't really recreate in a healthful way, but almost everything that you're like, oh, this is something I really like. I want to try to make it at home. It's almost always going to be a net positive making it at home. It's maybe going to be more expensive sometimes, and maybe going to take you a little more time. Yeah. But I think it's always a better choice to make it at home. So I'm not saying fish sticks are wrong at all. Right. And if I was starving, I would eat them, but I would not call them medium healthy. I would say that's not a healthful food. There's not a lot of nutrients in it. And and I'm also going to say with something like that, the word fish, we're going to put some of this around it.
Some sort of processed cod, or something. Yeah.
I don't know.
What kind of cod? Is it mixed cod or
there's a bunch of videos.
We all know about crab cakes.
There's videos circulate. Well, companies will do anything to just save money. They'll put all kinds of stuff in there and you don't know because it's fried and
filler
or like plastics and it's crazy like what people will end up finding in meat products. So you're better off not eating that kind of thing if you can. And good job getting creative and creating fish. I've never done that with salmon. I'm not as dedicated as you, Corey, making my own fish.
No, that's a great idea. I like the idea of salmon. The way we like to prepare salmon is we grill just about all our
we just grill or smoke just about anything. Even when it's not even appropriate. We'll still do it.
But I'll put our salmon on the grill in foil, and then we'll use olive oil and butter to kind of it's kind of frying the skin, frying under it, and frying the edges. A little bit. So I'll put enough olive oil and butter in the foil, which is what the salmon's sitting in, because you don't want that spilling out into the fire and create a big fire. Yeah. But we basically just kind of let that oil just kind of simmer, basically fry the salmon, and it's really good. I like doing it that way. So we don't do panko bread or anything like that, but similar idea.
That's a clever idea. So one thing, you guys, that one of the biggest issues for why Americans are not eating.
Are we still on point 4?
Yeah, we're still there. One of the biggest reasons is that moms have one way or another stopped prioritizing feeding their family, having the time and the energy to feed their family and prepare for their family good food. And I'm not, you guys, I am a mom and I'm a busy mom and I work outside the house. So I'm not here to try to make you feel bad or act like, come on, being a mom's not that hard. Yes, it is. Like, it's like the most challenging job. You wear 10,000 different hats. You have so many things to do.
I was just talking I was on a show today. I was interviewed by an entrepreneurial show, and we were just talking about how wife is the homemaker, which according to the Bible is way more industrious and entrepreneurial than our modern view of what a homemaker is in the public education
I mean,
system.
totally. I mean, it's a huge job. It's a huge responsibility. It's exhausting. It's thankless a lot of the time. So I totally get it. But one message that I have for moms, and we've talked about this in previous shows, is moms, no matter what, you got to stop overbooking your life.
Yeah.
To the point that it puts you in a position where you're too tired or you don't have enough time or enough mental bandwidth or whatever it is. Sometimes it's a combination of all those things to cook mostly, not even all the time, but mostly good nutrient dense food for yourself and your family. Like a lot, this falls on mom a lot of the time. In most families, you're the one who's shopping and food prepping and then doing the one who's making dinner. And if every single night, because you have decided to have this job outside the house or say yes to this thing or do
or
this
these birthday parties,
like whatever. I get it. I mean, it adds up. Like you have to plan and you have to prioritize, and this needs to be at the top of your list because food is so impactful. So again, so many moms that I talk to, they're just like, I can't do it. It's impossible. I don't know how. I can't. And it's just like, you could learn new skills, and you might even need to cancel extra stuff so you can sit down, find a mentor to help you learn. If your mom didn't teach you, sit down, do some YouTube tutorials. There's free information everywhere. But one way or another, this should be a huge priority. And if that means saying no to other things, canceling other things, you need to do that. And stop acting like it's not doable, because it is. And it needs to be more important.
Yeah, that's right.
It's important.
I'm enjoying this thread on our chat group where they're talking about how to make healthy fish sticks.
That's wonderful.
And they're talking about Corey's like, oh, I use 30% fish and 70% panko bread.
I love it.
and then Corey says, panko is used for breading everything in Hawaii.
Yes, it is. Panko.
Yeah, sushi and all that stuff, 100%. Linda's like, I'll check into it.
Great.
That's awesome, guys.
Way to share good things. Okay, and just lastly on that.
Okay, we're still on the topic. Eating mostly whole real food is what Fringe Health Nuts do.
I have so many. So number one, it's not Fringe, or it doesn't need to be. It shouldn't be. We need to move the Overton window back. Mom, you have a huge responsibility, and you need to stop making excuses for yourself. And if you need to quit your job, then quit your job. Okay, because your most important job is taking care of your family's health and feeding them garbage every single night because you're too tired and you just can't do it or whatever. That's not acceptable. And secondly, dads, you need to provide, whatever that looks like, enough money so that your wife can, even if it's super basic.
And it's expensive this year.
Yeah, it is. We're living in an expensive time. That's for sure. So reallocate, move some money around, stop buying those stupid, cheap, gross snacks that your kids don't need. And truly just stop buying it. Like bring apple slices and peanut butter back, bring cheese sticks back. This might be reframing the taste buds of your entire family, but it's doable. You can do it. And it should be a priority for all of us. Okay. How are we doing on time?
Let's try to get through these last two more, actually. Let's see if we can
get through two more.
Number 5 should be that hard.
I like 5.
This should be simple.
I think 5's going to hurt feelings.
It might be complicated. And we don't apologize in advance for hurting your feelings. Number 5.
I didn't say I was sorry. Right. I just said it might hurt some feelings.
I'm just making sure. My kids need to do hard things, but I don't. Now, I assume, let me take a stab at this before you go.
Do it. This is said from the perspective of a parent.
Yeah. And I assume what you're doing is saying, hey, kids, eat your vegetables. Hey, kids, finish everything on your plate. Hey, kids, you need to have protein and a vegetable or whatever, while you go to Starbucks and go to McDonald's and get the snack bites and everything, and don't eat all the vegetables that you should and stuff like that. That's my guess. That's my stab.
Yeah.
Was that not good?
I mean, I guess that's true. I don't know a lot of parents.
It is true.
I mean, it is true. I don't know a lot of parents. I'm just saying, of course it's true.
It is true. I sound like Jerry Seinfeld. It is true.
Yeah, I'm just saying I don't know that many parents who do that. It's often the other way around, where the parent takes care of their health and they let their kids eat garbage. So it's actually the other way around usually. But what I was thinking actually was, son, you need to get out on that football field and you need to work harder and you need to not cry and you need to be tough. And you know what? Doing hard things is good for you. When you are 250 pounds, not you, whoever the parent is, and just a big old blob.
100 pounds overweight,
not
whatever. Yeah.
Doing anything physically hard ever.
Yeah.
Okay. Same with moms. You're cheering on your little girl as she runs her heart out around that track, and you are 75 pounds overweight. You are like, I'm so proud of you. Push yourself. You can do it. It's good to do hard things, but you don't do any hard things in the physical realm. And granted, stage of life, how old you are, where your starting points are, that's going to affect what, doing a hard thing means for you. But I feel very, very strongly that it is very, very important and impactful not just for our own health, but for our kids, and just in terms of how they see us,
Okay.
that we as parents are practicing what we preach, in the realm of actually physically pushing ourselves sometimes. Now, if you're like doing chemotherapy right now, or like you have one leg, or like, I mean, there's a billion exceptions, I'm sure. So please, I'm not talking to the exceptions, but if you're one of those parents that literally has not physically done a hard thing at all, ever in like years, but you're constantly praising and or requiring your children to do that, I think that's a problem. And it's one that is so prevalent. It's completely normal. Like it's completely normal to see that.
Okay.
And I don't think it's good. And I think that adults, when they get to a certain point and they let themselves go for so long, or they haven't touched a basketball in so long, or they haven't done a hike in so long, or you know,
Okay.
whatever it is, they get to the point where they're just like, I just don't do that anymore. I can't do that anymore. But the truth is you absolutely can, and you should. And I don't think it's right to ask that kind of thing out of your child when you are in no way willing to do that in some way, shape, or form yourself. Now, granted, you know, if you're like a 45-year-old dad, you maybe it wouldn't be healthy or a good idea for you to get out on the football field and sprint your guts out, but you could work up to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and like, I'm not telling you guys to go out and get injured or, you know, do something really stupid, but you could work up to it. There's a lot of things that you are actually fully capable of doing at the age of 40, at the age of 50.
Right.
You might not be as fast as you used to be, but you can at least push your body. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's nothing that's more, there's nothing, I don't think there's anything more impactful for your kids, just in terms of pushing yourself physically, than you as a parent doing it with them.
Right.
I don't think there is. I really don't think there is. Even if you're not doing as much as maybe you could have done in high school, that's perfectly fine. Although for a lot of people, you actually probably could if you stuck with it and you worked on it. But I see a lot of hypocrisy in parents, and I feel like we have a community in particular of parenting or parents that expect a lot of their kids, which I think we should, because the kids are very smart, they're very capable, they're very physically capable, and they tend to rise to the challenge, which I love. But we expect a lot of them. We tend to be hard on them. You know, like our son comes through the door and, you know, he puked at practice. We're like, that's great. You know, but it's like, when was the last time we puked doing anything? Like we don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this is one of the reasons that I still run sprints and I still do VO2 workouts. And I actually just the other day did a VO2 workout, and Vita was on the treadmill next to me. It's just the way the timing worked out. And, you know, she's the reason I do it.
It inspired her to do one.
Well, yeah, she did. She did do one with me and ran almost the same pace as me. Not quite, but almost. But I mean, this is why I still do it. Like, what am I doing when I'm sitting in the car lecturing her about how she's trying to beat the 8th graders at the mile?
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing? Being like, well, you just got to push through that pain. You know, you're going to get to that last lap and you're going to want to quit, but you actually know what you need to do. You need to run faster. And that's true. But what am I doing telling her that when I don't do that myself in some way in my own life? You know what I mean? I feel like there's some hypocrisy there.
Yeah.
I think
you can be. I don't think you're contradicting this or whatever, but I don't want to I mean, I'm not running lines right now while my son runs lines. You know, we don't need to be in the situation where it's like tit for tat kind of thing.
Yeah.
I need to be doing this.
And I don't mean it tit for tat.
And I don't think
style,
you're saying that. Yeah.
You know, although if you're the
I do
coach,
think the ditch is where we were talking about.
Yeah. I think the ditch is there.
You know,
I mean,
but I have no problem telling my son, you need to work harder and run harder when I'm not running sprints right now.
Yeah, that's fine. That's not what I'm saying.
And I know you aren't saying that.
Yeah.
And so, but I know our listeners could also maybe take some of the stuff this way.
Maybe.
You know, I don't know.
You don't want to be like, tit for tat, like in an unhealthy way, competitive with your children, you know? And
no, I'm not even talking about that. I'm just saying, like, I'm dad. I'm working, you know, probably somewhere around, you know, averaging, you know, probably 12-hour days.
Yeah.
You know,
you don't live in the same, you're not living the same life as them.
Yeah, I'm not living the same life.
Yeah.
So and this has been a big argument in culture where it's like women say, what I'm getting at is kind of the bigger cultural stuff that's going on, where women say, you can't tell me what to do with my body. You can't tell, you know, you can't tell me not to have an abortion. You're not a woman. You've never had a baby, you know, that kind of thing. So I don't want to pull I want to be careful on how we handle an argument.
Like it can't be true unless it's your personal
standpoint. Epistemology is what basically is what I'm getting at.
No,
and I know you aren't arguing for that
at
all.
But that would be the other side.
Yeah.
And I get it. And I mean, and I get it. Like Cash lives a kind of life where he can do 2 hours of football practice every day because he's a kid and he's on a team. You don't have 2 hours to do that kind of thing. But
That's
you know, you could do something hard. And actually, you've done that.
Yeah.
You've actually, I think you're actually a really good example. It's not going to be exactly the same thing, but you have been really disciplined about getting up early, which is hard, and like running your sprints, doing a bunch of push-ups, doing hard things. You know what I mean? And I think that your son sees that. And I think for a little while there, he was even doing it with you, and I think it's huge. So I think that's a really good example of you actually doing that.
Yeah.
And my only point is that parents, like even at your age, if you train smartly and regularly and you prioritize this, you would actually be amazed at how much physically you're still able to do.
Yeah.
I just think we all just give up on ourselves.
Yeah.
I think we just give up on ourselves, you know, and I think it's sad. And that could just be like literally 30-second sprints on a bike throughout the day. I mean, that, you know what I mean? Where you just push yourself as hard as you can.
Yeah.
That's safe. Yeah. That's low time. That's, you know, you could do that. You know, there's a lot of things that you could do, and that doesn't have to match what then your daughter was doing, but at least you could in good conscience be like, I am also asking my body to do hard things. Yep. And I don't think there's enough of that.
And I don't think we actually have time.
I don't think we do. It's okay.
We can, our last one. That's
we
okay.
We can roll this one.
I'm going to state it though.
Okay, fine. But I mean, it kind of
number 6.
It kind of comes. It's the conclusion we've come to. I mean, even just in this last one. So go ahead and say it.
Number 6. Remember, these are lies that we tend to tell ourselves. Getting fat, poor sleep, injured, and out of shape is just part of getting older.
Yeah.
That is likely false in your life.
It doesn't have to be, you guys. It doesn't have to be. But we can talk more about that later.
You gotta go take cash to practice.
I do.
Lindsay asked me. She says, "Is it really good for a young guy to puke at practice?" And I said, absolutely. Proverbs says the glory of young man is his strength. So there's a gift there. We want to push particularly our young men physically, because that's where their gift is at. And we want to stretch that gift for God's glory. So there you go. Quick answer.
Oh.
All right, y'all.
Great.
Yep. Thank you, baby. Thank you for prepping for that show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You can email us at RenchMedia@gmail.com. We always love discussing your questions on the show. So make sure you shout out to us, and we'll glad to discuss your question on the show as we have time. We'll be back here next Thursday, same time. And as you guys, like our show and what we're doing, please share the show. Share the show with your friends. That's our best way of growing, is actually your reference. So please share the show, like the show, comment on it as you guys have been doing in our threads, and we'll see you every Thursday live here at 2:15 p.m. Pacific time. Thank you for joining Water Break.
See you guys later.
This wine was good.
America is a country that was founded for the purpose of allowing Christians to do their duty before God and not to have their consciences ruled by the doctrines and commandments of men. Reese Fund exists in order to see the 10 Commandments properly applied, not just as a plaque on the wall, but to actually be used in business as though they're commandments from God that we're supposed to obey. Our goal is to find businesses and to buy them and to build them up. We want to find manufacturing businesses and use them to make sure that we can maintain our capacity to do things here. Reese Fund, Christian capital, boldly deployed.